After trying Uwe Rosenberg and Tito Lorenz's Black Forest, we thought we would try out its predecessor, Glass Road. In this video, we'll share our thoughts and contrast the two on Legendary Tactics.
So we've played a few games of Glass Road, mainly because we played Black Forest and we were really intrigued by that. And so we thought we would give this one a try. What are your immediate thoughts? Let's use our usual rubric here, and we'll talk about. We'll go with theme because that's your thing.
Well, the dials are back in theme.
Yes.
You know what? This is like just your straightforward Euro as far as theme goes, right? Like you're
Yeah.
you're doing buildings here. You're min-maxing. I found a lot of crossover as far as even the theme goes to Black Forest.
Yes. Well, they were apparently developed at the same time.
Hmm.
And what happened was that the publisher wanted a simpler game, and so they went with Glass Road. Uh, and then Black Forest was revived later, and they added worker placement and so forth.
Right,
Um,
right.
but this is a neat game in its own right. I think I think I prefer Black Forest overall, but I do kind of like this one. It's got some nice. I like the card picking thing and so forth. But anyway, just to stay on theme, you do feel like you're managing a property to some degree. You
Yeah,
know, you've
it's
got
it's
to.
light, like it's
It's
light,
very light.
but it is that it's got that Euro thematic flavor to it. You pick up any Euro, you're kind of in this kind of,
Yeah,
yeah,
resource
building,
management and
right? Yeah, resource management.
okay. Well, let's look at mechanics then, since I kind of brought it up. What did it what caught your eye here with this one?
Well, I found this game very clever in its mechanics because I
Yeah.
love, like you mentioned earlier, that whole card mechanic where
Mm.
you really have to be cognizant of your opponent and what you think they might be picking as far as cards
Yes.
go.
Yep.
And uh, at the same time, you're also having to be aware of what you need in your hand and your own current dial situation,
Yeah.
and even your board situation, what cards you need or what how you need to fill up your own tableau.
Hmm.
So I love how it forces opponent interaction, which I find a Black Forest can be a little more. You can kind of just focus on your own board a bit more. This one here really makes you pay attention to your opponent.
Yeah. I kind of gently disagree with that because I found that I was just picking the cards that I felt served me the best. And I wasn't so much thinking about blocking you or anything like that, but maybe that was just my limited scope. But I found I was picking the ones that I figured would be useful to me,
Okay.
and with the caveat that I knew that you may have picked them, and I may only get half the benefit. So, um,
There you go. That's the trade-off, right? Like
yeah,
knowing that you're not going to get the full card benefit if there's cards you're picking that you really want to have.
yeah. So, but at the end of the day, I was choosing the cards that I felt I wanted more than dealing with the cards that I'm trying to figure out what you're doing and blocking it because generally speaking, I didn't. This game's pretty short, and I don't know if
Yes.
you've got a lot of time to,
There's not a lot of time.
yeah, like figure all that stuff out. You got to get your resources. You got to build your estate, and that's
You
a
got to
big
move
deal.
quick.
So
Yeah, for
yeah.
sure. Yeah,
But I do love the dials. The dials are just as good here as they are in Black Forest. I think it's a
absolutely
really
agree.
innovative mechanic, and I love that.
I also do love the simplicity of the building selection where it's not overwhelming like in Black Forest, where you can be a bit of a brain burner just going through you
Oh
know,
yeah,
the multitude that is in that one versus, I think there's 12 in this one in total.
yeah.
And
No, they refresh. So as you buy buildings at the end of the turn, you refresh the ones that were
but you're only ever
purchased and
picking
so
from
forth.
one of 12.
Yeah, yeah. At any given time, the most you have to pick from is 12.
So
Yeah.
the simplicity, and I find that just leads to a little more of an elegance in this game that I like.
Hmm. Yep. Yeah. It feels like to me, it feels mechanically like a pared down Black Forest. Like Black Forest did add another layer with the worker placement and the tradespeople and stuff. You're still managing your estate to some degree as well. But it's so it keeps a lot of the core elements, the core mechanisms of Glass Road, but I feel it expands on them in a meaningful way.
Yeah, and as we've been constantly drawing parallels between Black Forest and Glass Road, I'm really struggling in my mind with which one I like better. So that's kind of a
Yeah.
another decision. But I started off, really leaning towards Glass Road, but you've actually started to sway me actually more towards Black Forest.
Yeah.
I have a feeling I'm going to land somewhere right square in the middle.
Yeah. Well, I think they're probably, good in their own ways, and well, we'll be playing Black Forest again in a couple days, so you can
For sure.
let me know. And then I mean, the aesthetics of the game are, uh, for me, we don't have the components because we played this on Board Game Arena,
Correct.
uh, but I think they're pretty similar to Black Forest. So if you like the components of Black Forest and that,
It
uh,
will be very familiar. If you've played
yes.
Black Forest, this will be a familiar game to fall right into. Uh,
Hmm.
and I'm assuming here a little bit, but I would assume that yeah, the components are going to be quite akin to what you have in Black Forest.
Yeah, yeah, they're very functional. I don't know how pretty they are. Like when I look at things like the pits and the ponds and stuff, I'm like, well, like the groves look okay, but and the forests look fine, but uh, I don't know. I don't know if I'm in love with the aesthetics in this game, to be
Right.
honest.
They
I
work though.
think I
They work
prefer
like
Black Forest overall that way.
I mean the all the cards do tell you what they need to tell you, and so they work.
Mhm.
They function as they should. There's nothing confusing about them.
Yeah, it's more like to me the aesthetics are more utilitarian. They're used, they get the job done, but
Right.
they don't necessarily. I'm not absolutely like struck by how beautiful
Right.
the game
There's no
is.
miniatures rolling through this game.
Yeah, no, no, that's true. But I mean, it's functional, and as such, I think it's good. So what about sort of upside downside specifically? Any criticisms that you have about this game?
That's what I've been, you know what, and I don't have a lot. I don't have a lot of criticism. I think maybe that you can get kind of stuck up in your own board still, like you said, and maybe that whole, equal card mechanic isn't as it might be more gamier than I originally thought it was. Like you've kind of
Mhm.
talked me off of that, how thinking that what a great mechanic it is, but maybe it's not as, because you saying you played your own board and not really worried about
Yeah,
um so that's kind of one thing that I'm starting to waffle on.
and we're playing two-player as well, so there probably would be a lot more interference with more players, right? So
You'd almost
because
be
you
assured that you wouldn't get both actions.
Yes. So you'd be limited in what you're able to do. I think two-player allows kind of higher scoring and that, in general.
Yeah.
Um, the only criticism I have, I felt some of the buildings were very overpowered, certainly in a two-player game. We haven't played this at other player counts, but I'm looking at, my board where I got the continuous grove. So I can build two groves a turn. I picked that building up in the first turn,
Yeah.
and so I knew my strategy, and there's not much you can do to stop me. I'm going to build a lot of groves because I got that building in
And
place.
I can't slow you down. I actually tried to one round and it didn't really do anything.
No, no. So I'm going to get another six groves down probably, and then I happened to pick up the Forester's Lodge, which gave, as long as they were in the square formation, that was another four. So that's pretty daunting to get 11 points just from that. But to me, the other one was the glassworks, where it took the value of a glass from 1 to 3. So
A
that can be worth
three.
9 if you just that's a in a game where most buildings are only worth 1 or 2 points.
Three is powerful.
Yeah, well, but 3 per glass, that's nine
That's what I
points.
mean. That's what I mean. Yeah,
Yeah,
3 points per, yeah, is
so
powerful.
that's well worth doing. And I didn't even
Yeah.
need the one building, because this the food locker one. I mean, it was okay, I guess. You could potentially score a couple points off it, maybe, but 1 or 2 points. Um, but I don't know. I just felt like some of the buildings were overpowered, especially if you got them in combination.
In fact,
Um,
that it was the plant nursery card that your with your continuous grove. That's how you beat me in the previous game that we had played, actually.
Yep, and that's why I
You employed
played
that
it
exact
again.
same strategy. So
Yeah,
it could be maybe a potential not gimmick to the game, but it could be a potential way to win the game,
yeah,
one
yeah.
path to victory.
Well, I don't know if it's one path, but there are certain buildings that certainly give you a very clear mandate, and uh, I like that on some level, but on the other level, it's like you can't stop me. I'm going to get a lot of groves. I'm going to get a lot of points. And you went with the estate, which is a fine card. It's a bit expensive for what it is, but the thing is, in order to get those groves and ponds and everything together, like you need to use up a lot of space on your
You do.
board.
And in
And that,
fact, I used that exact same strategy and lost it to you a previous game as well. So I should
yeah,
have learned my lesson.
yeah. Well, it's not a bad card, but you really like, I think a lot of it is getting these buildings early so you can actually work your strategy going forward.
Yeah.
But I found like there's no pivot, like there's no, unlike many Euros where you feel like you can change strategies or pivot a little bit. Here, if you get the right buildings, it's full steam ahead. The like two of my five cards were automatic picks. It didn't matter what you did or
Right.
what the board situation was. I was going for the two groves, and so and maybe I'm being too critical because it's meant to be a simpler game in many ways,
Yeah,
but
that could be it. That could be it.
I did feel that some of the buildings offered
A
uh
little OP.
strong paths to victory, and they're really, I don't know, it just to me it was something where it was a little less uh, it was a little less like if I look at the builder's hut, give up a grove for two clay. Well,
Yeah.
that could work if you were in the right situation, but there's other ways to get clay where you can kind of still accomplish maybe something else. So, and you don't have to sacrifice a grove. So, yeah, anyway.
Another point kind of on that one is the value of the resources at the end of the game are moot. Like I just look,
Yes.
like for example, I ended that like the game we just finished with 8 charcoal and worth nothing, right? Like 0 points. So you're
Well, the glass is worth points, the bricks are worth points, and you replaced your one, but the sand oddly is worth half a point per.
right,
And to me, it's kind of funny because it's like I guess they're tied into glass making, the sand and the
right,
glass and stuff, but in some ways it's this the sand as a victory point thing seemed a little bit random. I think maybe it was just to give the sand something to do because maybe it's not as valuable as in other ways.
right. Okay,
Yeah,
Nato, it's decision time for Glass Road. Let's do our thumbs up if it's in our collection,
yeah,
sideways if we're indifferent, and thumbs down if we would pass it along. Are you
yeah.
ready?
All right,
All
here
right,
we
on
go.
the count of three. One, two, three. Can you see this? Oh,
Yes, I'm neutral on it. Your thumbs up. Okay, that's
thumbs up.
good. So you would if this came along, a cheap copy came along in the secondary market, you'd snap it up.
I would definitely add this to my collection. I would have a lot of fun with my children with this game. It's
Yeah.
a great game for the kids.
Yeah. And I agree. I enjoy the game, but I don't feel the need to run out and get it.
Right, right.
I have Black Forest. I'm quite happy with that. I feel it scratches the same itch,
Absolutely.
and I
Yes.
enjoy it a little bit more. So for
And I
me,
think the
it's
final
okay
thought,
though. It's not like a bad game, but for me, it
yeah,
was much improved by Black Forest in the end.
I would say that if you like Black Forest, you will like Glass Road.
Yes, that is true. I totally agree with that. But at the same time, you'll also be feeling like you're playing kind of like a stripped down version of Black Forest too.
So maybe
So
start with Glass Road.
yeah, maybe start. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Start with Glass Road and then try Black Forest afterwards. Almost because it almost does feel like a bit of an expansion of
It's the
sorts.
next level. That's right.
Yes, in the same universe. So
Awesome.
anyway, thanks so much for watching this review of Glass Road
And don't forget
and
to get out there
get gaming.
and be legendary.